Bout to take off like a rocket. Givenchy, I'm on it. LV and make sure we poppin'. I got a Batman and Robin. You call me drop it, I cop it. 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 Givenchy, I'm on it. I spend racks on my showroom. NFTs and they so cool. Yeah, I got a lot, man. Cryptos on the blockchain. We was on the block, man. Now we at the top, ayy, Stop, man. If I didn't get you blocked, man. I get every drop, man. I be on that clock, yeah. You call me drop it, I cop it. The newest Givenchy, I got it. Collectibles all in my wallet. Bout to take off like a rocket. Givenchy, I'm on it. LV and make sure we poppin'. I got a Batman and Robin. You call me drop it, I cop it. 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 Givenchy, I'm on it. You call me drop it.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Strange Vault. This is a non-NFT related live stream with my homie Dr. Strange, my co-host, where we go over some paranormal and UFO type videos, investigate, and find out what you guys think about them. What's up, Dr. Strange? How we feeling tonight?
I'm chilling, man. What's good with you, Vault?
I'm feeling all right. Shout out to all the homies in the chat. Shankster's first in the chat today. What's up, gang? Alejandro's here. True Stoner, Gritty One. What's up, Nevea? We don't have anything in particular planned for you. We talked about last week how we might go over some ancient astronaut information. If you guys haven't checked out the Bright Insight YouTube channel, I will link that to you guys. But from there, we're just going to be hanging out, chatting, anything you guys want to talk about. Dr. Strange, anything strange going on this week that you've heard about?
Man, it's something crazy every day. Honestly, you got your ears plugged in or tuned in to the right places. I mean, it's crazy footage being shot every single day, bro. So I think it's kind of crazy about those billionaires being all in that submarine and it's lost, like while they were looking for the Titanic or something.
Yeah, I know there were some updates today about it. I haven't watched the update videos yet. I know everybody's heard about it, but one of the updates said, the thumbnail anyway, said that they heard thumping or something. I don't know really what's going on. You think there's some conspiratorial stuff going on with that?
Well, basically, when you're in that situation, usually the captain will use a hammer and bang on the hull because they know that it'll give off, sonar pings.
Right.
So if they're saying they're hearing that, then that means it's a good chance that's what they're hearing, but who knows?
Problem is, even if they find them, they can't figure out how to get them up either. So it's a rough situation. But if I did watch a little bit about it yesterday, and they were talking about how unsafe they were telling everybody that diving equipment was in the first place. It wasn't like a regulator or anything. It was just kind of something they threw together and was sending billionaires down in it, making bank too. And then they just lost one, so now they're gonna get sued and lose it all. Shout out to Bruin88s in the chat. What's up, Bruin88? It's time for the Strange Vault. We got Astro BB in the house. Let's go. Mr. Froey Comey here says he came to drink some whiskey and talk about everything strange. Well, you're in the right place. I'm here with Dr. Strange on Strange Vault, and that's what I want to talk about, strange stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about today, and I would like to watch some of these videos, but I don't necessarily know what we can and can't watch. But like I said, Bright Insight, I linked it in the chat. It's a really cool video with this guy who claims that, for example, the lost city of Atlantis is actually this place in Africa in the Sahara Desert. I can't remember what it's called. Do you know what it's called, Dr. Strange? Those rings? The Eye of the Sahara or something?
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Yep, the Eye of the Sahara. And if you actually get into this one video he does here, like I said, I'm not sure how much we can show, but I'll try to pull it up and show you a little bit. The claim that he's making here, and it's really interesting, maybe I can find the map that he shows, is that before the history, present time that we know of, if you look really deep, see, this is the area, this is this Eye of the Sahara that actually exists out there, and nobody's really gone and explored because it's such a remote location, but it does seem to fit the description, I guess it was of Plato or whoever, about Atlantis, and like maybe this is it. And if you see some of the video of the actual land mass, if you get deep into it, which hopefully I'll be able to find it here, and he explains really well, and I'm probably not smart enough to explain, but it shows where he thinks a glacier came across that area, and it really lines up to his whole theory of a glacier wiping out Atlantis in the first place, and all that all that stuff that was there that people have wrote about in the past. I mean, there's so many different accounts of Atlantis. You have to think that it was probably real. Doc Strange, what's your theory on what's going on with Atlantis?
I don't know. It's a lot of different theories and evidence of it being possibly in different places. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. You got, possibly off the shores of the Atlantic Ocean, you know,
True.
with the whole, what is that? The Bimini area. You know what I mean? Planes going missing. Then you got the Dragons Triangle area. So it's all these different mysterious places and magnetic issues and poles and all this stuff. But I mean, as far as physical evidence, like I said, I think it was off the shores, off the coast of the eastern seaboard somewhere. They were theorizing that Atlantis might be. Then I've heard theories of somewhere like down in the Mexico area, like those waters, and now this. So, it's definitely interesting because it's supposed to be surrounded by rings of water. You know what I mean? Each ring.
Yeah,
So
I know
for
there's
that to
like
be an area that today doesn't have any water, it's just really interesting because I do think that there was water once in that area, like in abundance.
yeah, I think it used to be all forest and stuff,
Right,
the Sahara Desert.
right.
So that's really interesting. Fro knows what he's talking about. I think it's called the recrut structure. It starts with an R, but Fro knows about it. Without the shades, it's like Vault without his cap backwards. What do you mean? What are you talking about? So without his shades? Talking about
Same
Doc
me.
Strange, yeah.
Yeah,
Bruce says Bermuda Triangle. Bermuda Triangle is pretty wild. A lot of stuff has happened in the Bermuda Triangle. It still happens to this day. Planes going down over there, and I've heard a lot of scientific theories about it that it has to do with the polarities and like
right,
it just the magnetic force in that area causes all
right.
that to happen. So it's like a real. It's not like paranormal at all. It's just a real physical effect that the world has in that area. What do you think, Doc?
Well, I'll say the paranormal part is the fact, like, yeah, you may have cruise ships and stuff, but it's the fact that these things actually sink or planes literally go missing. You know what I mean? And there's sometimes no distress signals even put out. It's as if they just went through a portal and just disappeared. So many wreckages not found. And I mean, you're dealing with like a lot of clear water and stuff. It's not, it shouldn't be too hard to find, you know what I'm saying? But for the amount of things lost in the areas, there's not a lot found there.
Yeah, it might have to do with if they have like maybe some extra undercurrents that scientists don't
Right.
understand yet. Maybe there's some special crazy stuff going on underneath the water there. We don't know a lot about what's going on in the ocean. Astro BB says crop circles are so nice. I really hope it's alien art. Oh, crop circles. Yeah, crop circles are pretty interesting. I know that Froey Comey mentioned the Bimini Road, which I
Yeah,
know
I
a little
mentioned
bit
that.
about. I think this is some structures that they found. I can't remember exactly where. We'll have to look in here and see if they tell us. And it looks like they're man-made structures. And if they are, then it's possible that it leads to a city or something, or possibly a bridge. Doc, do you know anything about the Bimini Road?
Just a little bit, very little. Like, I know it was basically what we were talking about. A lot of magnetic activity, things going on. I believe it was like some islands down there and stuff. So things happen. You know what I mean? In those waters, man. Water's a mysterious place, bro.
Yeah, Bimini Road. That's one that looks man-made, and there's another one that's in Japan, off the coast of Japan, that is huge. It almost looks like an island. It's really hard to tell if it's man-made or not. I don't remember what it's called, but people are finding these structures that maybe they belonged to a past civilization, and that's a lot what that ancient astronauts theory is about. Possibly a civilization was here, and then a catastrophic event happened, maybe even just the ice age that wiped the whole entire civilization out. And then
Right.
whenever they rebuilt, there were still signs of that past civilization that the early people found, and they started creating their own stories, and that's how we still know about it. So one big thing when it comes to that whole idea of this past civilization that was already here is the Sphinx. So if you don't know about the Sphinx and some recent theories that were proposed about the Sphinx, one of them has a lot to do with the sides. Let's see if I can find Robert Schoch, I think is his name. There's a scientist. He's not even a scientist, but what's it called? A meteorologist? He's not a meteorologist. What's the rock scientist called, Doc? Geologist. I want to say he's a
Geologist?
geologist. Yeah. He's from Boston University. So what he did is he went and looked at the encapsulation around the Sphinx, And what's interesting about the Sphinx, it doesn't sit at, I'm trying to find a picture for you. It doesn't sit at eye level, the same level, ground level as the pyramids. It actually sits way below it. And whenever they first discovered it, people probably know the famous Sphinx picture with just the head sticking out of the sand. Sphinx head out of sand. When they first discovered it, it was completely
Oh yeah, surrounded in
yeah, it was
sand. Yeah.
completely covered up in sand because whenever Dr. Shock went in there and looked at the sides, he could see weathering from water, which means that it was around back whenever there was a bunch of water in the area. Here we go. I don't know if that's exactly it though. That can't be right. Uh, but there was water that caused that, so that means that it's been there longer than the pyramids. And of course, some people think the Giza pyramid also been there for that long. So if so, it's possible that that civilization discovered the pyramid and discovered the Sphinx and then decided to settle there because of it and then try to build their own pyramids to mimic what they had found. Because it's interesting that the Giza pyramid is the oldest pyramid and it's made perfectly. But if you go and look at all the pyramids that were made after it, a lot of them are really imperfect and a lot of them crumbled. A lot of them got built because they didn't know what they were doing. They were trying to make what they saw, and they were unable to make it, so they messed up until they finally got it right. What do you think, Doc? Am I off on that, or is that where you're going? Or is that what you've heard about when it comes to the pyramids in ancient Egypt?
Exact same thing, pretty much, man. I've heard a lot of different things. I've read a lot of different things, but yeah, that's pretty much the summary of it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to try to figure out what the pyramids were actually used for because the historians and the archaeologists will tell you that the pyramids are tombs. However, no body has ever been, or no, yeah, no body has ever been found inside of a tomb. It's never been used as a tomb, yet they still what they claim it is. Now, this is interesting here. Pro pointed this out for me. He said, look at the Sphinx of Pakistan. I've never seen this before, but it does. I don't know if it's like a natural formation or is it actually a Sphinx like the one in Egypt. This is really cool. I've never seen this before. Have you ever seen this before, Doc?
Actually, I can't see anything yet.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
trying to get my laptop fired
Oh
up
yeah,
so I
yeah,
can
got you. No,
get
I'll show
in.
you whenever you get on here. I don't know. This kind of seems legit. I can't tell if it's a natural formation or maybe it was a natural formation. They carved a face onto it. It almost looks like a Sphinx in Pakistan. What's up, greedy one in the house? Was there an entire
Mm.
colony that went missing without a trace in Roanoke? Ooh, I don't know nothing about that. Have you heard of
What
that?
kind of colony? What kind of colony is you mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure what Roanoke is either. Sounds familiar. What's
That's
up?
in Virginia. Roanoke is
Oh, okay,
Virginia.
yeah, that makes sense. What's up, crazy Dan in the house says when the North and South poles switch magnetic fields, all hell breaks loose. Man, they've been saying that for so long though. I know that's
Oh,
the
shit.
yeah. They keep saying that's gonna happen and it's gonna mess everything up, and they say it's happened before in the past. I don't know. I believe it when it happens, but I guess I'll be on the other side of the world when it happens. It's gonna mess everything up. What's up, Rich Buddy? What's up, Ronnie Lido? Says there's stuff way older than the pyramids too. Is there though? How old is Gobekli Tepe? I mean, do they know how old the Pyramid of Giza is? What's up, Mr. Planet Prophet? This is his specialty. He says, let's go. Rich Buddy says, recent discovery of very large beams has discounted all theories of how they were built. What very large beams is this all about? Pyramids, discovery, large beams. Have you heard of that, Dr. Strange?
I mean, I've always heard of giants, so I mean, I haven't heard of anything particular, recently other than, stuff I've been showing you, giants in some South American countries, at the top of mountains, doing things. So, I mean, it's nothing super clear to me though.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories about what the pyramid was actually used for, and I'm not good enough at chemistry to understand exactly how it works. But they talk about how the king's chamber is some way where they can build up some type of chemical and able to create energy, and it almost seems legit. It's so complicated that I don't know. I don't understand it. Maybe I mean, when I listen to it and they explain it to me, it sounds legit. Like that's possibly what they use the pyramid for. But the question is, what would that power be used for? Like we didn't see any tools that was getting powered by the pyramid. However, if it was from the first civilization, then those would be gone anyway. Greedy one says early settlers. Ronnie Lido says new field of thought is that pyramids are advanced forms of technology created to harness stuff like hydrogen and others. Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about too, because they're not exactly sure why it was built this way, but it was built in a particular way for a particular reason. Beams, not
I mean,
beings.
I've heard theories also where, it's used to transfer one's essence or spirit back and forth, especially when you're talking about Mars, you know.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Astro Vivi says the Sphinx was reshaped many times. Maybe 12,000 years old civilization did it. Yeah, well, not just civilization. I don't think necessarily that civilization did it, but people did it. If you go and look at the Sphinx, I mean, I could say with pretty much confidence that originally this was a lion. I mean, if you look at the proportions of the body,
right,
you can see the size, how much smaller the head is from the rest of the body. Originally, I'm pretty sure I could feel very strongly that this was a big lion. And then one of the pharaohs came along and tried to make it look like him. What's up, BE in the house? Let's go. Appreciate you, bro. Rich Buddy says the large beam discovered by bots is so big it couldn't have been moved greater than a 3-degree angle, so they don't know how they did it. Dang, they got bots in Egypt? Nah, I don't know about that one, Rich Buddy. I haven't seen it yet. If you got a link, though, I want to check that out. Ronnie Lotto says, you can't walk around in pyramids like these. The chambers aren't made to walk around in.
right.
Yeah, they're used for a certain reason, but nobody knows exactly what. Probably to harness some type of energy. DJ and Rich says, show the mermaid video. I didn't like the mermaid video. I was not convinced by it. I was not impressed. I thought it was acting. Mr. Planet Prophet said it was Alan Pharaoh Head. Oh. Yeah, see, Mr. Planet Prophet's an expert. He knows about it. There's one thing about the creation of the pyramids that I found really interesting. It was mentioned on one of these documentaries, and then I never heard about it again. And it's really hard to look up because it's about Tutankhamun, King Tut, which is dropping on Elmon X if you guys are a collector. Tutankhamun stands for Khamun stands for grandson. And the reason he's called that is because his grandfather was also a pharaoh. It was Pharaoh Tuten. His name was King Tuten. And he kept track of the whole entire time that he was building his pyramid. He was building his own pyramid. Every day he wrote in this journal, and it was all factual information. And if you look at his journal, what's really crazy about it when he was creating his pyramid is one day he says, there's a silver, he wrote all the other stuff, and he's like, also a silvery object appeared in the sky. And then the next day he says, now there are so many silvery objects in the sky that it blocks out the sun. Yeah. That's just part of like the historical record of him building his pyramid, and nobody really talks about it. It's hard to find too, because if you try to look up King Tuten, all you find is Tutankhamun.
Right. Yep.
BE says the Sphinx was originally a skeleton related to Mo. That sounds legit. Ronnie Lido says there's a structure in Chichen Itzu that definitely sounds familiar, that are designed to make the sound of specific birds when you clap. Whoa. I've heard of Chichen Itzu for sure, but I never heard about that. Let's see what this is. Oh, yeah. And did you know that this is the place where if you look at it at a certain time, it like lines up as a perfect snake? But I didn't know about I think I have heard of the thing about the clapping and it sounds like birds. I think I saw that on a documentary once. Yeah, this place is really wild. And it's almost blows my mind that this is all the way on the other side of the world from Egypt. And they built pyramids too. Why is everybody building pyramids? What do you think, Doc? You think it was this whole past civilization that was building all these pyramids? Or what is the reason why these different civilizations all were building pyramids at the same time?
Well, I mean, to really thoroughly dig into the names and who's involved with what would be a whole show in itself. But the shortest version I can give you from the information I've come across is, when you're talking Mars and Martians and things of that nature, supposedly that's where these original beings came from. They traveled in what we would interpret to be a Merkaba, or basically the Star of David, it would appear as. And, it would be like 8 of us coming from Earth, all having, the best knowledge, basically the most well-equipped astronauts you could possibly think of, way better than we train our astronauts. We would send these 8 masters out, with supreme knowledge, as much knowledge as possible. So whether that's building, whether that's destroying, whether that's genetics, procreating, whatever it is, they're at the highest level of their civilization. So supposedly when they came here in the Merkaba, they landed in one particular area and then they spread out from there. So it's the same thing as if me, you, and 600 other people were all trained and knew how to do things, right? But if we all were sent to a new planet and it was a clean slate, and then we all broke apart and went out different directions across the planet, and started our own civilizations in each corner of the planet, when we erect our monoliths, they're going to be similar in nature and how they were made, which would be inexplicable to the people of Earth, but they're all going to be similar in that nature. You know what I'm saying? This is why you got another megalithic structure. I forget where it is, but it's literally carved out of eviscerated rock. It's made in the middle of a mountain. Literally, there's no way to corral other stuff, and it's made from the same stone of the mountain. So it's like, and there's no room to even work with to quarry anything or anything. So it's just like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And that's why all of these things are, you know, megalithic structures that are unanswered, but they're very related in size and their inexplicable nature and how they're built.
Yeah, it's crazy how some of these amazing structures were built so far back by people who apparently weren't even able to write at the time. It's like, how did they plan that out? Rodney Lido says, almost like the advanced civilizations that almost died off went around the planet and retaught stuff to the new people after the Great Flood. Something like that, or the Younger Dryas. That's the word I was trying to figure out last week, the Younger Dryas. Greedy One says, Yonaguni Monument was a Japanese underwater pyramid. I think Yonaguni Monument is the one I just mentioned a minute ago. We can look that up in a second, but I did want to point out this brand new news that came out yesterday. I don't know if you saw this, Doc Strange, but apparently NASA's Juno spacecraft captured a spooky green light flash on Jupiter, and this looks like, I guess it's the actual picture itself, and if so, then that's wild, because what could possibly be making the light that's that huge? That would have to be huge to be that big on Jupiter. I don't know if you guys heard about that too.
Yeah, I actually saw this little article in thumbnail, but I didn't dive in, but not surprised, man.
Yeah, it said it was just
really have no idea.
They're calling it a lightning flash, so it must have just flashed for a second, but yeah, I guess it could be lightning, but green, I don't know. If it was something that happened all the time, then they wouldn't be so interested by it. The fact that it's green is really interesting. I don't know what could have possibly caused it. BE says, no one can figure out how to make the pyramids using the tech they had. I know, there's a lot of different places like Pumapunku where they can't figure out how to do it using the tech they had. All right, I wanted to look up the Yanaguni Monument, and I think that's the one underwater that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, it is, where they're not sure, but they think this is possibly man-made. I didn't realize there was like a pyramid structure like this. I mean, that's obviously man-made. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, so that's man-made. This is the part that some people like speculate on whether it's man-made or not, because it looks like steps. But if this is in the same area, then you gotta think that it was probably definitely man-made. And even people back then in the area over in Asia were building pyramids too, and this is an area that is actually underwater now, so who knows how long ago it was built.
Well, if you click on that picture again with the scuba divers in it, I would think that this shows signs of being made by or for giants, because there's stepping stones that's impractical for our size. I mean,
I don't think those are stepping stones though, because, well, I don't know, because they're not like they're not built like steps. I don't know what they would be, but they are right angles.
Yeah, the portions, and there's things possibly broken off. It's a lot of erosion, but
True.
I mean, I don't know again how you descend that or ascend that at our size practically.
Oh, this one
Or
right
even
here looks
build
like
that.
it. I'm sorry?
Yeah. I was saying, or even build it. Like, it's just, yeah. I would love to see a human being right there in that corridor and see if they're real small or what.
Yeah, I would too, actually. The one with the steps, because we have nothing to compare size with there. Let's see. Ronnie Lido says, a new idea too, that you get thousands of people together and hum at a certain frequency to lift objects. Bruh. Has anybody ever done that before? I would check it out. Ronnie Lido says, huge ice age that... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was like, it's like acoustic vibrational resonance, and you can break down rock, turn it to clay, malleable form, and they theorize that that's what they were doing to not only bring and transport, you know, that's how they're like, well, how come the rocks from the pyramid come from way over there, or another structure, they'd be like, the wood from over here came from 100 miles away, how, you know, like, that's how they say they do it. They use vibration and levitation to manipulate objects.
Yeah, and people are actually, I've seen video of people being able to move stuff with just vibrations already, like small stuff, but maybe they had some technology that we aren't aware of yet. Ronnie Lotto says huge ice age that melts from the Younger Dryas impact and floods the Earth to the levels today. Yeah, that's why every single civilization has a flood story in their history. Fidimon says if you want an interesting UFO incident that took place during the day at a school, look up Ariel School UFO incident. I'm on it. Ariel School.
You might be talking about the one that happened in Africa. I'm not sure, but it's a bunch of schoolgirls that saw it, and they recently revisited them because they're like in their 20s now, and yeah, it's very interesting.
It's very interesting. I mean, I've definitely seen a few different videos on this one, and I'm a little skeptical, but not completely skeptical. It's just that not all of their stories match up whenever they drew it. Like, there were some inconsistencies on what they were drawing, but it's really pretty hard for 62 kids to all have the same story and nobody ever go back on it. That's not impossible.
Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to some
and
of their pictures.
I would think there's going to be some sort of psychological trauma that goes along with that, to where everyone should not be interpreting what they saw exactly the same. As long as there's certain details that are the same, like it happened, then you could just go, from there pretty much. But
so I didn't realize that they had came back and talked to them again after 20 years. What did they say when they talked to them? Can you give us a little bit of summary?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same story. It's just checking on them as being adults and seeing if there was any revisitations. I didn't really get to dive in and watch it myself, but I just saw that, it did happen. Yeah, are you clicked in on it now?
I'm watching one of these videos just to show some of the scenes so I could show some of those pictures that the kids were drawing, which is really interesting. This supposedly happened. Let's see if we can find the date. This is in Zimbabwe.
Right.
I'm looking for the year of when it happened. I guess it was 20 years ago, right?
Or 90s. Okay. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And these kids were out playing. There were 62 of them, and they all said they saw this alien. They saw it land. They saw creatures get out, and they all pretty much had the same story. And 20 years later, they're all sticking to the same story. And I don't see any reason why they would all be sticking to the same story, unless it was true. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, one of the more interesting African tribes, and I mean, this tribe goes back really somewhat to the dawn of humanity, origins of humanity in Africa, but they call it Dogon tribe.
Yep, I was already looking up as soon as you said that. I already knew.
Yeah. Come on, man. We don't need to talk, bro. We transmit waves telepathically at this point, Volt. You know how we do. Like, you guys don't understand. Me and Volt don't barely even have to talk during the week too much other than just sharing clips, and then we just get on, and it's just, it clicks, man. That's why we wanted to do this. But there you go. I mean, if you're able to play something for the people, man, that'd be dope.
I want to show this one thing in particular when it comes to the Dogon tribe that's super, super interesting, and it's this. It's just this piece of equipment, this tool that they created, and they created it back in the 1950s and the 1960s. And the tool, what it does, hopefully they'll show it on here somewhere, is it shows the exact rotation of Sirius A around Sirius B. Like I said, they created this in the 1960s. The thing is, scientists couldn't even see Sirius A and Sirius B with the telescope until the 1990s. But they have the exact distance that each one are from each other, and their exact rotation. Not rotation, it's the gravitational pull. Yeah, but it's amazing that they have that, and plus they have all these stories in their history about how they came from Sirius A, or how they came from this different planet, and it almost seems legit. I mean, it's hard to say it ain't legit, honestly. Yeah, the Dogon tribe is super interesting. Gritty One's talking about the Nazca lines. Nazca lines are super interesting. I want to hear some theories about what could have possibly created the Nazca lines, or what were they created for. The Nazca lines are these pictures that are way out in, I think, like it's South America, right? In Brazil.
Yeah, in Peru.
Okay, Peru. And nobody even knew they existed for the longest time until airplanes were invented. You couldn't even tell that they were a thing until airplanes were invented. You cannot see them except for from the sky. So that tells you, like, when somebody created these, who did they create them for? I mean, I don't know. It's pretty wild. Completely a brain teaser, because I know the only real explanation that archaeologists have put forward is that they're for religious purposes, that they walked the lines for a religious ceremony, and that don't even make sense.
Look at that. I mean, look at that. I mean, the arm and leg portions are insane. I mean, this is, again, if you guys want to really dig in and get answers to what a lot of this stuff is, and stop watching videos that are like, wow, look what we found, and we don't know what it means. Check out a guy right here on YouTube, Damon T. Berry. It's called Knowledge of the Forever Time, and it's literally 8 parts. One part has been banned from YouTube. That's how much he went in on it. But you can still catch the 8th one on here. And he breaks down all of this stuff, like what it means. There's actually a Nazca line that's of a spider. And, a spider should have what, like 8 legs or something like that. And the one that they have there has like an extra leg. And he breaks down astrologically what these things mean. Like we think in very literal terms, like when we see a picture of like an animal depicted, we think of the animal. Meanwhile, like we're just trying to figure out what animal it is they're trying to show us. And then these things aren't exact like the animal, and that's what's throwing you off. But it's made like that on purpose. Like they might be showing you a bear and you don't see there's the spider. You don't realize the bear is representative of a star system, the bear star system or something like that. So it's like we have to almost retool the way we think to understand how they're communicating. It's the same thing. He breaks down the pyramids in the first one. He breaks down, by the time you're done, if you were to ever witness a UFO event where you just see a bunch of lights in the sky and they're changing patterns and then holding patterns and making these patterns, you'll understand exactly what they're showing you. Or when you watch old footage, now you're not going to be watching it from a stance of wonder. You'll actually be understanding what they're doing. They're communicating. They might be showing you where they're from. They could be showing you their constellation. They could be showing you our galaxy and constellation from their point of view, same way as the Dogon we're dealing with. So it's a lot of information out there, and I would love to review it on this channel. But each one of his series is like an hour long, and I don't know, if we could do stuff like that, but definitely check it out on your own if you can.
What's the name again so I can link it for him?
It's Damon T. Berry, and it's called Knowledge of the Forever Time.
Boom. Damon T. Berry, filmmaker. I think this is the right one.
Yeah, that's the right there. Yeah, and he has a couple of other little series and stuff, but yep.
All right, I'm gonna link that video in the chat so y'all can check it out. I haven't heard of this myself, but I might have to check it out too. Doesn't look like it's too long. Shout out to Froey Comies in the chat. We got Vidimon here. Brendan Z from the Palace. What's up? Vidimon says, as adults, they were able to express themselves better. While young, they didn't have the vocabulary to describe what they saw. So yeah, it should be interesting to go back to see what those kids in Africa saw 20 years later. I'm gonna have to find that video myself, and I haven't seen it yet. Gritty One said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was not sure the set number, but it looks cool. Y'all talking about some NFTs? We don't talk about NFTs around here. It's time for the paranormal. Fro says, Bolton Doc, what are your thoughts on the Bosnian pyramids? Supposedly many times larger than the pyramids of Giza.
Yes. So, and when you start getting into technicalities like that, then this goes back to what I was telling you about, Bolt, that Egypt is America's Egypt. You know what I'm saying? It's because they misclassify these things. Like you could call something a mound because it's made of dirt, but in reality it's still a pyramid. You know what I mean? Like if you find a mountain that's shaped like a pyramid in Antarctica, are you not gonna call it a pyramid because it's covered, because it's the face of it is snow? No, it still is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's how they get away with a lot of this stuff and hiding the connections to things. It's misclassifying stuff, like calling this a mound. It's still a pyramid.
I don't know. If it's a pyramid, then it has to be man-made to be like a pyramid, right? It's got to be man-made. Yeah. So can they like dig in there and see if?
Because when you watch Damon T. Berry and you understand what goes into the making of the pyramid, you realize it's possible that the person involved with making the pyramid may not have been human in origin. Again, all the people that erected these megalithic structures that we're talking about, I already told you, they're not from here. They're from Mars. They're literally, this is where you get the term Martian from. This is where you get the Merkaba from, which is the Star of David. Like if you was to see them traveling in the sky, it would look like a star that's, you ever seen that picture of, I think it's by Da Vinci, of a man and he just has his arms out and you see the circles around him and all of that's representing like how an atom is spinning, you know what I mean? So it's the same concept. That's what they travel in, to us it would look like bright like a star. And that's why it's interpreted as the Star of David, you know what I'm saying? All these different, going back years, you know what I mean? All these symbols being used of the star.
Man, I mean, this one looks like a pyramid to me. I think it's pretty obvious.
Right.
It could have even been man-made, and then it's just been grown over, and people don't realize it.
Right. And that's the thing is like, what do you want to classify as man? Because these people have 5 limbs and head. They're our cousins. They're, You see what I'm saying? So, are they human? I don't know. Are they from this planet? I don't know. But we could call them human or man-made if you want. But I don't think they're from earthly origin.
Oh, you're probably right about that. Let me get to some of the chat, and then I want to go into that a little more. Let's see. Ronnie Lotto says, "Why are all these archaeologists and scientists are trying to hold back the info because it goes against what they have made a career in?" That's definitely
Right.
true. I can see that, especially when it comes to the Egyptologists. They're not cool with any other theories. But whenever they discovered Göbekli Tepe, there's nothing they could do about it. They changed history right there and then and there. So they have to admit they were wrong in that case. Let's see, it's pretty detailed. Astro BB says Nazca is really weird. Looks like people draw them walking in procession, walking for days, following each other. I don't know if that would necessarily draw those. And plus, how would they know where to? In the beginning, the first guy. How does the first guy know where to go? I don't know. It seems tough to me. How would he know to walk in that perfect spot to design something that you can only see from the sky? It seems tough. Green One says we're talking about the Pyramid of Giza. Oh, the Pyramid of Giza logo. Oh, Lego said, of course you are. Actually, now that sounds pretty dope. I would probably do that one. Look up Cahokia Mounds outside of St. Louis. St. Louis.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. Who said that?
BE from the VV Drop channel.
My dude.
Oh wow.
My dude. See.
All right, let's check this one out. America's
You got
Forgotten
Little
Megacity.
Egypt.
Shoot.
I mean, all the names are right there in your face. Memphis, Little Egypt. God, there's so many Egyptian names in America. City names.
Trying to find a good picture of this particular mound itself. Now he's just showing me history right now. I got to get past all the history and into the present. Let's see what this thing looks like. Is this it? Nope, still some historic stuff. Apparently this is a pyramid in St. Louis. I'm looking. I don't know. I might need a better video on it. This guy's getting deep into the history of St. Louis. It ain't been around that long. There can't be that much history, bro. All right. 1830. Cahokia, America's Forgotten Ancient City. Now this right here looks interesting. Maybe this will show me something. Y'all might have to tell me the story. We could try to watch a video, but last time we tried to watch a video, they kicked us off because we don't know what we're allowed to watch and what we're not. I know BE and Mo got kicked off earlier the other day for watching
the
Tree
Friends, right?
Yeah. All right, so this is like a drawing, though, so I don't know exactly what this is. Do you know anything about the Cahokia Mounds, Dr. Strange?
Negative.
What's up, Roger E in the house? Just got home from work. Let's go. We got the incorrigible Ghost Slayer here. Says, what's up, Alton, Doc Strange? Hope you guys are having a solid hump day. Yeah, we're scaring ourselves right now. My collectibles in the house. We're scaring MC. Sorry, guys. We're trying to figure out what really happened in our history that led to where we are now. But we're not going as wild as we were last week when we were talking about reptilian eyes and people were not feeling me on that. I'm still not convinced that it wasn't real. I'm just saying we're going a little bit lighter than that this time.
Right, you go a little lighter.
A little bit lighter this time. All right, what's some other cool aspects of the whole ancient astronauts or ancient aliens theory? Do you know of any of them that come to mind? I know there's the Petra, but we showed that last time. Petra's a pretty wild place that was built into the side of a mountain.
I think you touched on one of them earlier. You were showing one, and you were talking about how the light hits it and it projects a snake. But there's another Aztec pyramid that a messianic one that basically, like, I think it's during a solstice or something like that. I don't know if it's just that or if it's every day at a certain time, but basically, like, when a light hits it and comes from a certain angle on the pyramid, it casts a separate set of steps that's supposed to represent, like, the spiritual version of the god that belongs to the pyramid. And as the sun's moving, the steps are moving, kind of like how an escalator is. And yeah, they were just saying, like, how did they know how to build that like that, to make it do that? And it's a whole, spiritual background going on with that whole thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's this one right here. It's pretty amazing how they were able to figure out. I mean, yeah, how would they do that? You would have to be sitting there looking at it and planning ahead so far ahead. Because this is like once a year that the shadow, maybe twice a year that the shadow hits there. Yeah, I don't know how they would do something like that. It blows my mind. Some of the most amazing stuff was built before technology was even a thing. It's crazy.
Right. I mean, and then to think again, even the size of those steps, that's not practical for a regular sized human, you know, like it's just weird.
One thing that I talked about the first time we were talking about UFOs is UFOs in art. Of course, I brought up this one. It's one of the most famous paintings that uh, features what looks to be a UFO that the artist drew in there. But there's quite a few of them. You can see the artist here even drew what people think is himself and his dog. Right here is his dog, both looking up at this thing in the background, which a lot of people think are a UFO. But there's a lot of old stuff and the historical paintings. We're talking 12th, 13th century that has just stuff that doesn't look like it's
Doesn't belong.
representing. It doesn't look like it's representing a higher power like God coming down. It looks like it's representing a craft or a disc in the sky shining something down.
Yeah, I mean, those things look like what the fan Daniel Marquez captured in his fiction. Looks exactly like that.
I think it's funny somebody did a Starry Night one for all you Elmon X fans. There's
Oh,
one
really?
in particular. If I could find it, that's really famous. Is for some reason it's not popping up on here. Well, this one is one because they got these two, and if you zoom in right here, you can see they got these two figurines, and it looks like people inside of crafts flying. I mean, that's definitely a person. That's a craft. It's in the air, and you look at the original painting right here. Yeah. So a lot of people think that that could possibly be depictions of UFOs. There are some other ones. Oh, here, this is the one I was looking for.
There's been some recent footage, not that recent, but within the last 2 years of someone that caught a UFO broad daylight. It was real far away. So when they sent it in to like one of these channels or whatever that are used to they do the enhancements and the zooms. When they zoom in, it almost looks like the front part of a helicopter. The smaller helicopters was like two dudes in the front.
Yeah.
Like how it slopes down. It looks like that, and it's all glass. Like, it's weird because it sits upright. It would be like as if you were standing in something and not really sitting, but you can see clear as day. So like a alien basically sitting in there piloting this thing, and it looked just like that, like how they were sitting upright somewhat. And then you got the carvings and stuff in Mexico of the dudes sitting, basically in a rocket, and there's videos where they do the color enhancements to separate, because, it's all one color on the stone, but you can see this guy's pulling gears. He got his foot hitting something like we would have on a motorbike, you know what I'm saying, for the clutch. And it's a lot out there, man. Yeah.
I should know. I know the name of that. It's like Tekepo Koopa or something. Tekepo. Yeah, I know exactly what that is. It's a really interesting, just this giant slab that looks like an old Indian driving a spaceship. We can look that up. This is another one I wanted to look up when we're talking about old UFO sightings in the past. This one is wow. This is 1561 over Nuremberg, and this is the actual news article that came out the next day, and this is what they depicted in the air. Notice this one down here is really interesting, the black triangle that's in here. And basically what happened is, on the morning of April 14th, 1561, between 4 and 5 a.m., a dreadful apparition occurred on the sun and then was seen in Nuremberg, in the city before the gates and in the country, by many men and many women. At first, there appeared in the middle of the sun two blood-red semicircular arcs. This is a news article, y'all. Just like the moon in its last quarter, and in the sun, above and below, and on both sides, the color was blood. So it was a red sky, no big deal. There stood a round ball of partly dull, partly black ferrous color. Likewise, there stood on both sides, and as a torus about the sun, such blood red. Man, they're so poetic back in the day. And look right here. These all started to fight among themselves, so that the globes, which were first in the sun, flew out to the one standing on both sides. Man, this is a UFO fight that happened in front of everybody in 1561. Is that wild or what? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've seen this. I mean, when you get into the ancient Vedic texts in Indian stuff and, stories of Gilgamesh, I mean, it's a lot, man. It gets crazy, and they did a lot of artwork alongside of it to really corroborate stuff, real time. And yeah, I love the ancient, Renaissance paintings, all of this stuff, man. It's all throughout our history. I mean, the reality is, man, it's easy to look outward, and it's always harder to look inward with things, right? So it's easier to think they come from some far distant place. You would never think each one of our planets in our solar system has different beings on it, so or in it, I should say. You know what I'm saying? And people don't want to believe that not only were there possibly multiple beings here, races here, genetically different than us, but also that something happened that drove them away or in the planet. And even though you're seeing a craft, a flying craft, a UFO that you can't explain, it may come from within the planet and not outside of it, or we could have D, all the above.
Could be in the earth, could be in the ocean. We don't know 90% of the ocean. So, yeah, absolutely 100%. Shout out to all the homies in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Ghost Slayer says, for real, the OG Tomb Raider movies are deep about human history. What about,
National Treasure.
Yeah, I was going to say National Treasure. What about Nick Cage? Let's get your American history right there. Roger E says, hit like, I want more like this. Appreciate you, bro. Let's go. Kryptoni says, I've been to the Incan ruins. Let's go. I would love to go on a tour of the Incan ruins. That would be super fun. Fro says, piggybacking off of what Doc had mentioned about Egypt is American and America is Egypt. Are you both familiar with G.E.L. and Kincaid's discovery of a cave filled with Egyptian artifacts of the Grand Canyon? No, I'm not familiar with that. But I know that Doc Strange is. Yeah, I know. I haven't watched that video yet. It was really long, though. But why don't you break it down for us? How is Africa America, or Egypt's America, or what is it? Explain it to me. I know it's complicated.
Well, to put it plainly, it's the same reason why. Yeah, it is. But, to put it plain and simple, it's the same reason why if scientists are going to say the first humans on the planet derived from Africa and they were black. This is why you'll hear a lot of black people tell you that black people we populated all corners of the earth, and it was easy to do because at one point, we didn't have the Pangea effect. So there was no, oh, you got to cross this big ocean of water. No, the shit was one landmass. So you derived from Africa, and until Europeans came and started drawing lines and naming shit, no original people really, really cared about naming stuff like that. Like they did, obviously, but we're talking about original times, original people of the earth. You're just trying to make it, you know what I mean? And again, this still goes back to that, right, Pangea effect. Yeah, that's that. This goes back to, like I said, there being those original people that they say came from somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Now, when they spread out from wherever they landed and they went to wherever they went to, did they influence the civilizations or the beings or whoever they found there? Most likely, you know what I mean? And that's how you get these different empires and civilizations that believe in this God and that God, you know what I mean? But they all pretty much came from the same place. You know what I'm saying? They had higher knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, this has all been proved through genetic research. If you don't know what the mitochondrial Eve is, everybody can trace their DNA all the way back to one particular woman who lived a long, long time ago in Africa, known as the mitochondrial Eve. Although they have said that there may be a separate branch now that was in Asia that they may have discovered, but this kind of some newer discoveries that they're making. I'm looking up this stuff about finding stuff in the Grand Canyon from Egypt. I got one site that says yes, and I got another site that says no. It says on April 5th, 1909, a newspaper called Arizona Gazette published an article on the front page of its evening edition called The Explorations in the Grand Canyon. It was filled with wild claims that remnants of Egyptian civilization had been discovered. Oh, there's just one catch. The story is false. I don't know. This is they're talking about a 1909 story. So this might be
what you want to look for is the guy that basically was allowed to traverse the full Grand Canyon before they closed it and made it a national park or monument or whatever. And that's why they did it. It's because of what he discovered. So it's like he said, you would be trying to look up Kincaid. And yeah, I was telling you about it a couple of weeks ago when we were first starting the show, because that information had resurfaced again. And, it's not so much about the whole America's Egypt thing, even though that's pretty much what was found was hieroglyphics on walls and stuff like that. So, it's just further reinforcement that makes the case that is the situation. So like I said, as far as ideologies or groups of people coming to and fro areas that we think it's hard to make happen today, you got to think way, way back before these continents were split up.
Yeah, that's true. And the question is that the current civilization, or is that past civilization that we were talking about may have been here before the Ice Age?
Current.
Right? Oh, current.
We're talking about the current black man and woman.
But
They already. This is why, like,
during Pangea, because that wouldn't make sense then for Atlantis to have disappeared during the last civilization, because Atlantis would have been between Africa, Europe, and the North America and South America. So nobody knows for sure the past history. So people are trying to piece it together, and we just
right.
there's not enough stuff that has survived for us to have the knowledge, unless we get some more technology. And when AI starts working on some science stuff, maybe they'll give us a better way to carbon date stuff where we can figure out some stuff that we don't understand yet.
Yeah, I mean, when you start trying to mix in Atlantis versus things that there is physical evidence of, that's where you're gonna get a little tripped up because you're like, you know, Atlantis is not lining up with things that we have physical evidence of. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, one is not so hard to have been proven, and the other is you can see it right there in your face. You know.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing I like looking at are some of the earliest maps that people have found and some of the places that are noted on those earliest maps that don't exist now. Crazy Dan says humans are probably some alien kid's science project. I've always figured that it was most likely, some type of DNA that was on a meteor that landed in the ocean and started life that way. Although now people are saying, it might have been the Anunnaki who came down and kind of bred with us or messed with our DNA coding a little bit to use us to mine gold for them, which they needed to fix their ozone layers. One theory I've heard for sure. Let's see.
I was saying, like, that goes back to the Dogon. It's so much that you could really study about that tribe that if you're looking for answers for something, it might lead you to a story of the Dogon and you might think that's it. You know what I'm saying? But when you dig into, this is why I say that tribe, they go back like thousands of years, bro. It's not just about this new tool that they've made, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, one of the original tools that it wasn't even a tool, it was literally a star map, and they made it themselves, but it was under the guidance of the beings that was with them, you know what I'm saying? And like you were saying, it came from a different star system, Sirius. I thought it was B, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't know that they claimed that they were from Sirius A themselves, which is interesting. But when you dig into like their verbal, because all of their history is all verbal. It's verbally passed down. You have to remember everything from every generation before you, word for word, and then whatever's accounted during your lifetime. But, they account beings falling from, lights, fiery, basically like seeing people falling from the sky and they fell into the ocean. Most of our planet is ocean anyway. So imagine you're in Africa, it's one landmass, and you see some beings fall into you don't even know that they're beings, but then they start floating up. And they said that basically they were half human. Like if you look at them in the water, you would think they're human. They was like, but they couldn't walk on the water. And they said that it took a certain amount of time for them to mentally will, like they had a way to just basically will their bodies to evolve. You know what I'm saying? And they said the ones that wanted to come on land, they came up on land. They eventually got legs and came, and then the other ones stayed in the water. Now, is that the current day mer people? I don't know, but they got some really interesting stories, man. The Dogons.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. I know that mermaids are a legend that are in a lot of different cultures that are not connected with each other. And when there's something like that happens, it makes me feel like there's something real behind it, something leading to it. What's up, Brendan Z says, imagine trying to walk from Africa to any other region, even on Pangea, though, would be multi-generational. Would be multi-generational. Yeah. I mean,
it is.
Yeah, you had nomads.
That's the whole thing. Yep.
That's what they did.
And not only that, you got to remember, like, the water systems. Like the Nile is the only, system to flow, I believe, northern. You know what I'm saying? So that's how a lot of people don't understand how things, even after Pangea, when you're talking strong flows of systems, like they say the Mississippi, it's all like veins. It's considered veins of the earth. So they say like that's a main vein, and they say the Mississippi River is actually connected to the Nile River. And there was a lot of going to and fro just using that main vein. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that also connects to the Ohio River somehow, but
I would
it's
think the
something where they
Amazon
say,
too, possibly.
maybe. Like I know for sure the Nile, I've seen videos where they show like, especially when you're reversing the way everything is spread out now over time, like they're like it still was there. That vein was still there, and it flows north, I believe, instead of south or something like that. So they've said it's easy to go north up into South America and then America.
Yeah.
That one system.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially when it was. Yeah, he's talking about when it was Pangea, and maybe that all. That I mean, maybe Amazon, Mississippi, Ohio, now could have all been one little system where people traveled. I noticed where Brendan Z was talking about the size of Africa compared to all the other continents. Or I wouldn't say he said he could fit them all into Africa. I don't want to say it's that big,
Right.
but they do draw incorrectly on a lot of
Yeah,
maps.
I've
All right,
hmm
let's. Oh,
Yeah, I've heard that before.
that was Ronnie Lido that said that they need us to mine gold to put it in their atmosphere to block the sun. Yeah, yeah, that's the Anunnaki, which is also an idea we've been thinking about doing. I know whenever I heard that they were considering doing that for our atmospheres, putting gold in the atmosphere to block out the sun rays or whatever, that was after the whole theory of what the Anunnaki were doing. And I was like, man, that means they were probably right about the Anunnaki. I don't know.
Right. I mean, even looking at the map you got up right now, you could see how South America could hug right into Africa
Yep.
and the United States. Boom, you just slide it right over. And what you're not also seeing is how, let's say, like that panhandle area, you know what I'm saying, from Florida all the way through Mexico, like you got to understand certain land is still there. That whole hook, that little crescent looking area, that could still be filled in. It's just that the water levels rise.
True.
So that's also why we keep finding these pyramids and these. I don't know if you've seen the videos going around of scuba divers finding giant swords under the water and then finding like gladiator looking headgear next to it. You know, so it's all types of weird stuff going on right now. But so much has, been lost just from our water levels rising. And I mean, when you look at the globe like that, it almost feels like it's a situation where the land is slowly going away and we're all going to be engulfed in water. And like I said, as far as us being an experiment, what I'm looking at and finding, the experiment, the aspect of us, yeah, there you go. The aspect of us being so new to this planet and not knowing nothing from nothing is that we don't understand nobody else on no planet is living on the surface of the planet because of the it's unpredictable. And the whole civilization could be wiped out because a volcano decides to erupt. Like that doesn't happen underground.
Oh crap! All right. Oh yeah. So yeah, the giant knife that apparently they found. I mean, I don't know if it was like some movie prop or something, but that is pretty crazy. I hadn't
There's
heard of
another
that.
one with a helmet they found right next to it.
So yeah, I want to start looking that up, do some research on that. It's pretty wild. All right, man, it's about time to wrap it up. My cats are going crazy in the background fighting or something. I don't know what's going on back there. So appreciate you, Dr. Strange, for co-hosting with me. Appreciate you guys in the chat for hanging out with us. If there's anything in particular that you guys want us to talk about next week on Strange Vault, then just let us know, and we'll look it up and try to research it and try to get some info on it for you. All right, man. Appreciate you, Doc Strange. Thanks for co-hosting with me.
Yes, sir, man. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate everybody for coming through, hanging out in the Strange Vault, man. Come check us out next week.
Let's go. All right, later, homies. Have a great week. Peace.